Hello there, this is Vinod Narayan, and today I have a very interesting guest for a conversation. A few years back, I watched a movie, a Hindi movie called Rook, and in that there was a young man. Sometimes when you watch a movie, it strikes a chord within you. And that day I saw this movie and a character played by this young man. It made me write a blog, and I connected with him at that time. Few years later, after I graduated from blogging into vlogging, yesterday I thought maybe I should have a conversation with him and record. And I reached out to him, and that's a conversation that you're about to watch. His name is Adarsh Gaurav. You would have watched Rook. He is also coming up in a new movie, The White Tiger, based on the novel by Arvind Adiga. And that comes out, I think, in November, December. So let's go ahead and hear what Adarsh has to say. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. It's an early morning here. I'm usually waking up by like 9:30, 10. It's my
Yeah, so
waking
it's
up
early.
time.
So it's early morning.
Yeah, it is. It is. But last night I slept a little early so that I could wake up in time for this. Yeah.
I came to know about you is after seeing Rook, and I think your character was what made me write the blog.
That's amazing. I
So I
remember
thought,
reading it and I was so taken aback. Not taken aback, but I was just like, wow, somebody's gotten affected by this in such a way that they have actually taken the effort of writing this. And I like genuinely, that I thought it was such a sweet gesture on your part to do that. And I think you were one of the few people who wrote an article about me in the film. I really saw it.
no.
And
Sometimes
I remember,
sometimes when we watch a movie, there are it is so some chord strikes, and that might be what makes you because that whole relationship between uh, you and Manoj Vajpayee, who plays the dad, and then the whole
yes,
thing, the search. So I think it
yes,
kind of struck a chord. So uh, so that's when I saw that, and we kind of I think we communicated over Facebook also at that time, right?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
then I again saw you in Hotel Days, Hotel Days,
hostility,
right? Hostel
yeah,
Days, yes, Hostel
yeah,
Days.
yeah,
So that I saw, and then today I was checking, and I figured out that you're coming in Arvind Adiga's White Tiger.
yeah.
That's interesting because I read that book. I think few years back, and when I read that book, I was thinking it's a very interesting story. It's got a lot of filmy stuff into it.
Like it's one of those books that is inevitable that it'll be adapted into a film, and coincidentally, the director of White Tiger was Arvind Adiga's batchmate when they were studying together in New York.
Ah,
So the book is dedicated to Ramin, who's the director of the film, Ramin Behrani.
uh-huh.
So Ramin is basically Iranian by descent, but has um, grown up in America. He was born and he grew up in New York.
Okay.
So this is he's directed like a bunch of films before this, but The White Tiger has been like his biggest and his most commercial project. He's usually like an independent cinema director. Like he makes these small budget films, like $200,000, $300,000 films with like completely unknown actors, sometimes not even actors, like real people that he picks off the streets. Um, so yeah, so this film was actually supposed to be made. It's been um, in the plans for the last almost 7 or 8 years, and it finally got shot last year. As in, it was supposed to be made with somebody else, and then that didn't happen, and then Ramin came into the picture, and he came to India for auditions last year, and then I tested for it.
What is
Yeah,
your story? Your story.
my individual story.
individual story, getting into films, was that always a dream, or um, I mean, a lot of people who watch movies would always like to be part of the film in one way or the other. And we have seen people come to act and then become singers. People come to direct and then become actors, and we've seen all those things there. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you still have time to touch all those things, but still, uh, how did it start?
Well, it's a little strange because so I started training in Hindustani classical music when I was 5 years old, and I was born and I grew up in this small town called Jamshedpur, which is near Calcutta, and I had no relation with Bombay. And I was in my own bubble. I was, participating in singing competitions, and at age, like since age 5 or 6, my parents were pretty much sure that someday he'll make a career in music. Um, and even my teachers at that point, they thought that I had some talent in me, and I was, I used to be hardworking as a child even. So they thought that no, this dude will definitely do something, related to like music in that field. But I also had an interesting obsession with telling stories, um, and a lot of them were not true. I would make things up, like fictitious stories. So it could also be called as a lying problem. I had a problem of lying, but I would not really take advantage of anybody. It was just for entertainment that I would lie. I would lie to my parents. I would lie to my friends. I would lie the first opportunity I would get. I would lie and make up a story and tell them that this is what happened. Nothing of that sort had happened. One of those lies was that I am going to go to Bangalore on Bombay. This is just like a random lie or a story that I came up with when I was 11 years old, when I had no idea, right? At age 13, my father, who works for a bank, applied for a position in Bombay and he got transferred to Bombay. And my entire family actually shifted to Bombay. And it was never part of the plan. Like, we just moved because my father was like, he thought that he would get more opportunities in Bombay as a banker. I would get more opportunities in Bombay as a singer if I want to pursue a career in singing. He wanted me to go try for reality shows. My parents wanted me to try for Saregama, etc. So it was a collective decision to move to Bombay. And then once I moved to Bombay, I started learning music from Suresh Wadkar's academy. And within the first year itself, like I was doing really well at the academy. My teacher, who was Suresh Wadkar's wife, Miss Padma Wadkar, she thought I had immense potential. So she gave me the chance to sing in two Hindi films as well. One was Black and White by Subhash Ghai, which came in 2008, which had Anil Kapoor in it.
Yes.
And the other was a Hindi dub film called Chal Chale, which Ilai Raja was doing the music for Chal Chale. So I sang in both these films. Of course, it wasn't like a main song. I was just part of the chorus. But it was still a big deal for a 13-year-old who had just come to Bombay. And my dreams had already started sort of getting realized and getting manifested. I also tried for Saregama in 2007. But I did not come as far as like getting featured on the TV. I think I cleared the Bombay zoners, and then the last round was too late at night and I was really sleepy and I messed up my audition.
At what age were you?
This was 13, when I was 13 years old.
Okay.
I still had absolutely no relation to acting and none of that. Like, I'd never even thought of all that, right? I think it was December of 2007 or sometime or December of 2008. I'm not exactly able to recollect that. But I was doing a stage show at the Bombay Festival in Churchgate, and I was singing Vande Mataram on stage. And Hema Malini ji was also dancing that day. So my parents were there, they were very excited, all of that. And a woman after the show asked me if I was interested in acting. She just randomly asked me. And this woman, her name was Nazli Karimbhoy, who used to work for Rail Padamsee, who's Ali Padamsee's daughter. So I was actually part of Rail Padamsee's show called Freedom, where at the end of each show I would come and sing the song. She had contacted Padma Vadkar and asked her that, do you know anybody who can do this? And Padma ji had recommended my name. And I had already sung in 6 or 7 of her shows and at the end, and I would just come at the end and sing my song and then go. So this Bombay Festival gig was also part of Rail Padamsee's thing. She had only like basically, I don't know, through some contact or something, she had recommended my name and I was singing there. Nazli used to work for Rail Padamsee's company as the person who would basically handle the talent, the kids in the company and send them for auditions. So Nazli was present in the audience. She was an elderly lady. That time she was probably 60 or something. She asked me and I was like, yeah, sure, why not? It was as casual as that. And since 2008, I started auditioning. After auditioning for possibly 6 or 7 months, I auditioned for My Name is Khan. And that was my first role. I played the young Shah Rukh Khan in My Name is Khan. And from there on, I just kept auditioning for ads, and yeah, that's pretty much how it started. It was very vague. Nothing was planned.
And you were studying at that time? Or was it just
Yeah, I was in class 8.
Okay, so you were in class 8 as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Then, so do you continue music?
I do. I actually took a break from classical music when I was 15 years old. I got bored of classical. And because Bombay was such a major cultural shift for me, I suddenly found myself in this environment where classical music was not considered to be cool anymore. So that peer pressure sort of took over me, and I was like, I don't want to do classical anymore. Now I want to sing Western music. So I quit classical and I started getting into Western music. I formed my own band in college. So throughout college, I had like 2 bands. Initially, I had a band, we disbanded, and then we formed a new band. And I was really busy with music in college. And then after college, that band also we sort of disbanded. And then again, I took a break from music for 2 years. And now for the past 1 year, I've been actively singing again. I taught myself how to play the guitar during the lockdown. So now I play and sing together.
Yeah, that's what lockdown does to people.
I guess
it teaches.
So. I mean,
it teaches a lot of things.
It does for sure. I mean, it depends on which way you look at the lockdown. For me, I looked at the lockdown as this time, as this blessing that I've been given, where I need to catch up with things that I haven't done so far in my life. Because in college, I was also sort of lazy and I was all over the place. So I thought, okay, now I've wasted 3 years in college. Now this is like a blessing given to me where I can catch up with all my peers and I can invest time in everything that I ever wanted to do. Without having to sort of, without being questioned about it. And, so I've really enjoyed my time during the lockdown.
So in one way you can say that you came as a child artist, right? You can't say child artist, but it was in your growing teen artist kind of a person, right?
Yeah, I was 14 years old when I did
14 years old, yeah, in your teens, and then so Rukh would have been a total change, right? And you're not, and you were playing alongside Manoj Vajpayee and people like that, and it would have been how was that experience?
Rukh was just out of college. I had just finished my graduation. I was 21 years old. 2015 we shot for it. It was crazy because so Atanu, the director of the film, he basically got in touch with me sometime in the summer of 2015 through another casting director, and he just wanted to make this treatment scene. And he had a meeting with me and he's like, hey, listen, I have a script written, but for now I just want to shoot this treatment scene in Bandra in Bombay. I don't have a lot of money. I can pay you this much amount, which I was happy with because I was just out of college and I was like, sure, pocket money. I mean, I'm going to shoot for 4 5 hours. He told me what he just wanted to shoot one scene, and he gave me a gist of the story. I said it's a great story. I think I'd love to be part of it. Like, I mean, be part of the treatment scene, which is a 5 minute thing. I said, great, let's shoot this. So we just shot it like over one day. It was a very casual thing. I never thought about it. And then he went to the Drishyam screenwriters lab that was part of Sundance, and he pitched the treatment scene so that he could make the film, right? And I had no idea all this was happening on the side because I lost touch with the director, and then I was in my own thing. I was auditioning and stuff. Suddenly, after 3 or 4 months, he gives me a call and he's like, "Hey, Adarsh, this is Atanu. Remember we worked on that treatment?" I said, "Yeah, of course, of course. Hey, how are you?" He said, "So the treatment scene that we shot for, I went and pitched it, and now we can make a film because we've got funding." And I said, "Oh, that's great." I thought he was calling me because he wanted to share this happy news with me, and I was like, "Oh, that's great, congratulations." He said, "No, no, but I still want you to play the boy." I actually, because it had never happened with me that I got any part without auditioning for it, right? So I didn't know what to say. So I was still very confused. I was like, "So wait, what do you mean? So am I getting the part, like, or do I have to still audition, or what? What is it that you're really trying to say?" Then he said, "No, no, you're playing the boy." Because the producer also really liked you in the treatment scene, and it was unbelievable. And at that point, he was actually planning to consider another actor and Manoj Bajpayee, like both of them were in consideration. And I was a huge fan of both. And yeah, then Manoj sir got on board, and it was unreal for me. Um, the day when Manoj sir walked into the room, and the first time he laughed, I remember thinking in my head that he laughs exactly like Biku Matre from Satya.
Yeah.
I told him once, I was like, "Sir, your laugh is exactly like Biku Matre's laugh." He's like, "Of course it'll be like Biku Matre. I was only Biku Matre." He was such a nice guy. Um, so genuine and so hardworking. Really, I mean, it's like, he's like a, it's like watching an institution act in front of you.
Did you feel that you might make a mistake or something like that? Was that an issue, or how do you?
Not really. No, I wasn't really scared of making a mistake. And I had very few scenes also. I mean, are you saying I was scared of making a mistake in front of Manoj Bajpayee?
No, because you had few scenes with Manoj Bajpayee, right? Most of the other thing were
Correct.
no, but even then, first film you have someone like Manoj Bajpayee who's known for his acting, not just from a star
Right.
perspective, right? Also,
Right.
and who, when you see his movie, you know that they put a lot of effort into understanding the character and putting a lot of life
Right.
into the character, right? So, so there might be a lot of questions. Not just acting, you would have had this urge to learn during that process from him as well, right? In some way or the other. How do
Yeah.
you? So how does? Because I'm asking that because a lot of people who might be watching, they might be in one stage or the other. They wouldn't know how to act when the next they get an opportunity like this and they are with someone well known, right? How does?
Right.
Was that even
Well,
an issue, or you were there for auditions and you've been in the industry talking to a lot of people for quite sometimes it didn't really come up as a totally out of the blue kind of stuff?
yeah, I mean, um, once I'm on set and once I know the person that I am playing, I'm usually not like nervous about it. Um, Also, in case of Rook, I was a couple of months before we started shooting. I was given the script, so for 2 months I was literally with my script day in and day out. I would have read my script hundreds of times, broken it down, and I was always in touch with the director. I had so many questions to ask him all the time. So I was I was sure about the person that I was playing in some way. And, you know, I feel I'm not like a very, I feel I'm a nervous person otherwise in life. Like I do get nervous in situations, but once I'm on set and once like the camera is there, I don't really feel that nervousness anymore. It's a different kind of nervousness. It's a kind of nervousness where on the first day when you reach set and when you give your first shot, you don't quite know what your character is till the time you try it out.
Yeah.
And the first few scenes are always a little. You're still trying things out. You don't know which way to take the character, and then in one scene or in one of the other scenes in the first couple of days, you realize, okay, this is what I'm going for. And you take it from there. But even when it comes to working with like big actors, right? Like when I'm on set, I don't feel like I feel like it's that character versus me, the character that I'm playing. I don't really look at them for the personality they are. I look at them strictly for the character that they're playing. Um, and I've never actually thought about it. It just happened with me like that.
Mm.
But yeah, offset. Like when I meet them, I'm like, oh shit. Now I'm not that. Now I'm others. Like once the shoot is over, couple of months later, we'll meet at some social setting or we'll meet at the premiere or something like that. Then I feel very nervous and intimidated because at that point I'm not the character anymore. They aren't the character anymore. Now we are we are ourselves. But yeah, on set it's not that bad for me. I enjoy my time on set. Yeah.
And that film, you were probably playing your age or a slightly elder to
Like
you?
younger.
Younger, is it? You're playing younger, is it? Okay, okay. That was a 15, 16-year-old kid? That was a
Yeah,
character, right?
I was playing different age groups actually. I played a 16-year-old boy to a 19-year-old boy.
Okay.
Two age groups. Yeah. So when they first show me that when I'm in school, when I have that fight in school after which I'm sent to the hostel, that's when I'm 16. And then once I come back from the hostel after my father's death, I'm around 19.
Okay, okay.
And in reality, I was 21.
Okay,
So
okay.
yeah, but I've always been casted for roles that are younger than my age because I'm 26 now, but nobody wants to cast me for a 26-year-old guy. Like
Right.
they still look at me as like on screen they would still want to cast me as a 21, 22-year-old boy.
So you've got more work on the OTT platforms, right? Even for White Tiger, it is going to be released on Netflix, right?
On Netflix, yeah.
And that's a major change that is happening. And I think because we binge watch all this stuff over here, whenever, because that's our only way to watch, and it gives an opportunity for characters to really grow within like 8 episodes.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
dedicate episodes for actors, for characters rather.
Yeah, but
How
White
do you-
Tiger is a film, it's not a series.
No, it's a film, but even then, from a release perspective, what happens is that there is an experience of watching something in theater versus watching something in Netflix or maybe TV something, right?
Yeah.
In terms of because if you look at, there are many big budget films that are currently in Malayalam going to be released but cannot release but they cannot release those movies in Netflix or OTT platforms because those movies have to be watched in theaters, right? Some movies, but I think that also would change over a period of time. I think because
Sure.
because you don't know how long is this going to take. I mean, making movies is one thing, releasing it and people going to watch is a different thing, right?
Yeah, for sure. Even like 3 or 4 years ago, like much before all of this COVID thing had started, I remember having a conversation with somebody and I was telling them that I think digital is the future, like, because people essentially they are always looking for convenience. We are always looking for shortcuts and convenience in life, hacks, right? So once we figured out this hack where we can see a movie on our phone screen or we can see a movie in the TV at home, any movie that we want, why would we even want to go to a theater? Even though it's a different experience. Then we would go to a theater only to watch like an action film or like a 3D film or like if VR comes into the future in movies, then we'll like watch a movie that has VR and stuff. But otherwise, pretty much any film, any content, when you have the convenience of watching it on your phones or on your TV or on your laptop, you wouldn't go to the theater. So content coming onto this is actually something that I'd already foreseen much before then this was happening. And to be honest, I think OTT has really opened it up for like creators in general, actors, directors, producers, everybody in general, because now they don't have that budget restriction anymore where they have to shoot in such a big budget or have to cast big actors. It's the story that's driving things forward. So you make a good story, and even if you take unknown actors, people are still going to watch it.
Yeah,
I
because
think it's a massive advantage.
yeah,
honestly.
because many times when we watch, I mean, you watch Fauda without knowing any of the actors over there, right? And
Exactly.
you don't even understand the language, but still, and it's an action film which would look much better in a theater, but still you're watching it, binge watching that whole thing, an action.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think see, for me, going to theater, the main reason was I used to get so distracted when I watched on Netflix. That was my biggest issue. I would have my phone near to me, and then being active on social media, and I would have put some video. There's some chatting going on, something there. So always, every 2 minutes, I have this, and
Check your phone.
And there are very few movies, and I think Rook was one of the movies which started watching, and then I completed it in one shot. And see, those are and now, because and some movies they just, you start and then it continues. Yesterday I saw a movie; it was completely taken over. It's like chat and FaceTiming. That's how the entire movie is. A Malayalam movie, a thriller movie,
Right.
but initially it was difficult to watch, but then it went to the flow and then just takes you forward, And
There's a movie similar to that format that's coming up, right? That Fahad Fasil is directed
yes,
with Roshan Matthew.
same thing. Roshan Matthew and Fahad Fasil. See you soon.
Correct. It's a
So
new film.
It's a new film. Yesterday I saw it on Amazon Prime yesterday.
Oh, nice. Roshan Matthew is my senior in drama school.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. So I went to this drama school, Mumbai, it's called DSM.
Uh-huh.
Roshan Matthew was 2 batches ahead of me.
I see.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's where you studied acting. That's so you have also gone through learning acting as well.
Well, I think when I was shooting for Rook, around that time only, I figured that, because I was out of college and I always wanted to study acting, not just because I wanted to know more about acting, but also get to know more people who think like me, or not like, how do I put it? I wanted to get exposed to like a different set of people than the people I was hanging out with. People who are interested in movies, not because they wanted to be famous, but because they are movies, because they have that passion for movies where they could discuss all that. So I would always miss those kind of people because I never knew those kind of people and where to find them. And going to drama school, like, one of my reasons why I chose to go to drama school was because of that I could meet such people, also so that I could obviously work on my craft, and it's a place where I could fail and learn and fail again and learn better. And outside, if you fail once, you get judged and then you won't get cast. But in the drama school, it's like, you can do it how many or a number of times you want to. And you will just be evaluated and be told to work better, and then you can come again and fail again. So when I was working on Rook, I told Manoj Bajpayee, in fact, that, sir, I really want to go to an acting school and go to a drama school. Where should I go? And he said, you should go to NHD. And I said, sir, but I don't have experience of 6 theater production. You need that. It's mandatory when you apply for it. He's like, no, that's okay. You just first you go apply, you see what happens. But then I was 21 or 22 at that point, and now when I think of it, I'm like, I could have done it. But at that point, I was like, oh, I'm already too old to go to NSD. I'm already 22. By the time I come out of NSD, if I get into NSD, I'll be 25. And then it'll be too late for me to start everything from scratch again. So then I was like, no, NSD is not an option for me. I don't want to do it. Simply because it's going to take more time. That's it. That was and also there was no guarantee that I was going to get through it. It was just an idea that Manoj sir had suggested. And he thought that he obviously considered NSD to be the best drama school in India, which it is also. So I was like, what are my alternatives? And then there was FTII, which was going through a lot of turmoil at that time. Gajendra Chauhan was the chairman and a lot of things were happening. So FTII was also out of the option. And then I had a friend who had studied from this school called the Drama School Mumbai, which was only 3 years old at that time. So I was speaking to him one day and I was telling him that, man, I want to go get trained as an actor. I don't have enough money to go abroad and get trained. I want to be in India and train, but I don't want to go to like a typical acting school like, like all the private acting schools that are there in Bombay run by different actors. I didn't want to go there because people come there. I feel the kind of people who come there, they come there because they have different reasons to come there. My reasons were different. So then I was speaking to him and he said, yeah, why don't you try for this school called the Drama School Mumbai where I'm studying at right now. And I had no idea that he was learning act, like he was going to a school. I said, oh, what is this school? So he told me about it. I researched about it. And then I just applied for it and I got through in that year. And that 1 year that I spent there has probably been my most productive year so far. We tried so many things, and the best part about that school was that I actually discovered like different assets to my, like I wasn't just restricted to acting. I also directed plays when I was there. I was also involved in sound design, light design, like a bunch of things that I never thought I could do. It was a beautiful experience that 1 year, 2016 to 17. I was at drama school.
And it put some structure into what rawness you might have learned otherwise, right? In the learning by acting and learning by watching other people, you put some structure into it when you go to a school, right? Okay, this is what I was doing, kind of stuff. Kind of you start relating what you've been doing to, okay, this is the way you connected, kind of stuff, which helps, because otherwise you're just doing it. Maybe it naturally comes to you. Maybe you have seen someone do it, and you're good at replicating that. But here you can put some structure. So because you don't want things to be an accident, you want things to be repeatable, right?
Yeah,
and
you want things to be planned.
Yeah, planned and repeatable kind of stuff, right? You do some kind of a role somewhere, you should be able to do a similar kind of thing somewhere else if that demands it, right?
Exactly. I mean, once you go to drama school, you just know the tools that you can use to create something. You have those tools now, so you feel more empowered as an actor and as a person.
What is your movie watching? What is your taste? What do you watch? If you were watching movies, what is it that really? What do you browse and see?
I watch all kinds of films, but so these days I'm on Mubi. I don't know if you guys have Mubi in America.
Mubi, yeah. Mubi is here in Palo Alto. There, near us. The company is here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I used to have a Mubi. I used to use Mubi. It used to be $4 long time back. So every day they used to have a film. But then it becomes too pressured to watch every day. And then even though it is 30 days, then I'll have to catch up. I used to watch 2 movies in a day. And then finally, now there's so much in many places. But Mubi is good for, I think you got a lot of movies that you can learn, right, there?
For sure. Yeah. And like films from different parts of the world, directors from different parts of the world. You really get a perspective into, because I have always envisioned myself as an international actor. I just don't want to restrict myself working in Hindi films. I want to be working in Malayalam films as well. I want to be working and I'm willing to learn the language for it, I want to be working internationally as well. playing characters of different nationalities. It's so interesting to like just see a film, and then through that film you get an insight about which part of the world this director is coming from and what the culture of that country is. And yeah, my attempt is to just watch movies from like movies that are really diverse and different. And if it comes to a genre, like the genre that excites me the most is like thrillers, and horror. Like I'm a horror fan, and I watch a lot of horror films. But I haven't explored the gore part of the horror. It's more like the traditional kind of horror films that I've stuck with so far. But yeah, there is a lot of Korean horror and a lot of Japanese horror that I still need to explore, and also like the Ramsay brothers and stuff, like the
Yeah.
70s, 80s Indian horror that I want to explore. But yeah,
Horror
thriller
is-
and horror are like my favorite genres.
Movie gives you that curated films, right? Of a director.
Yeah.
They have, and that really helps because they do a lot of research into coming up with the film that they have to show each day,
Yeah.
and they're
And
connected
there are
as
different
well.
categories as well, right? There's the world category, there's the Indian category, then there's the film festival category. Depending on what you want to explore, you can just like see
Yeah.
whatever you want to.
And what are your future plans? Films.
Yeah, I mean, um,
Long form or
I
short
want to
form?
I have no restrictions like that. It's nothing like I want to work in a particular kind of format. Anything that's exciting and anything that's new. I'm just constantly trying to find out about people who are bringing something new and unique. Like in terms of directors, like people who have their own sense of style. Not like so. My attempt is always like to look for and hunt for directors even in these like people like Rohit Mittal and Ram Reddy and all these guys who found like their own distinct style of making. They're not big directors yet, but they're very cool directors. I want to work with these kind of guys like more. Yeah, just explore like the bizarre, the crazy, and not just like the conventional. That's what I'm excited about the most. White Tiger is coming up in November or December. I'm really excited about that. It's been my biggest project so far. It'll release in a lot of countries. A lot of people will be watching it.
Can you
And,
say what character are you playing? Are you playing?
I'm playing Balram Halwai in it,
Oh,
the protagonist.
you're playing Balram, and Ashok is Rajkumar.
Ashok is Rajkumar.
Okay. Because
And Pinky Madam is Priyanka Chopra.
okay. That's good.
Yeah.
It's a weird book. I mean, it's a weird book in the sense it's a very, I mean, the way it goes, right? It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's strange because at the end of the book, he kills his master, but you still sort of find yourself rooting for him in some way. You don't think it's such a bad thing that he's done after all, even though it's a murder, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the feeling that I got when I read the book.
No, he's justifying it throughout the book, right? He's justifying everything in his own way. He's justifying every action of his. Like there is always a good reason of why he's doing all the bad things.
Yeah. And by the end of it, you're convinced. You're like, yeah, hell yeah. I mean, this guy, what he did was right. Like all your morals and all your ethics are just out of the window when you're reading the book. It's actually a really strange book. And it was one of the first books I'd read in my life because growing up, I was not a big reader. Started reading a lot now, but like when I was 13, 14, till the time I was almost 22, 23, I didn't read that much. But White Tiger was one of the few books that I'd read. Yeah, because also it was one of those ultra popular books that were being sold like everywhere, like from traffic signals to every bookstore. So it made its way to my house as well, and I had read it. And when I got called for the audition, it was probably my third or fourth audition of a book adaptation. I'd auditioned for Life of Pi as well. I'd auditioned for a bunch of other stuff. So I was like, okay, this is happening. I don't know if it's going to work out. Like, I didn't give it two thoughts. And then over a period of 1 month, I gave multiple auditions and then the film worked out like magic. Yeah, and even the amount of time that I've spent on White Tiger in terms of understanding Balram has been the most amount of time that I've spent with any character.
And Balram
I
is not
spent
an easy character to understand either, right? Because you need to know where he and everyone can have different readings into Balram.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But
It'll be
the director gave me like an incredible amount of freedom in terms of how I wanted to do it, what I wanted to do. It was something else because even when we were shooting for it, um, there were lots of times when the director would just call me to the room, and usually how it happens on films, as you know, that the director and the cinematographer have already set the frame, and they tell you, okay, this is the frame. So between this, you can do whatever you like, not whatever,
Yeah.
but this is the frame, and then the director will tell you, okay, this line you will do this, and at this line you will do this, and all of that, right? Like it's very planned and structured. But in this case, he would just call me to the room, and he'd be like, "This is your room. This is like this entire space is yours. So now just show me what you want to do." And then I would just do whatever I felt like, and obviously it had to make sense. And then according to my actions, the director and the cinematographer would make the frame. So it was so liberating for me as an actor to have that much freedom. I'd never experienced that before.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
yeah, and even in terms of, when I was building Balram and when I was understanding him, at some point I remember Ramin came and told me, he's like, listen, like now I feel you're at a place where you understand Balram better than I do, because you've been living Balram for the last 3 or 4 months. I have to think about 100 other things related to the film. I have to think about multiple characters, but you're just focusing on yourself. So he would take my input even in things like the kind of clothes I would wear, what kind of things would be at my office, you know. So I was involved on a very different level in the film. I'd never experienced that with any other director or any other film. It was really personal. It was very, I was very connected with the film and with Balram throughout when I was shooting for it. He still calls me Balram. He doesn't call me by my name, the director.
And is it in Hindi or English?
It's 70% in English, 30% in Hindi.
Okay, because you have to have that Hindi. I think even the book, I think there are instances where the dialogue is on the Hindi thing, right? Because that's based on which part it is. That's right. I
actually, when we were shooting for it, even when we had begun, before we had begun shooting for it, I was very, I wanted a lot more of it to be in Hindi. I would constantly try to be like, but at some point I just made my peace with it. And I was like, okay, this is an international film that is meant for an international audience. And of course, there are people that are making films in their regional languages, and those kind of films are even winning Oscars like that. But this is not one of those films. So I just made my peace with it, and I said, okay, fine. Like, if the director wants me, like, because if you think about it, you're like, he's a driver who comes from such a small village. How can he speak in like fluent English to his masters, right? And it's not even like I can't even stammer and stutter because it's a 2-hour film. If I spend time in stammering and stuttering and searching for words, then those 2 hours will get over just in doing that. So the director's instructions were very clear. He said you have to take that leap of faith, and you have to believe that this is the universe that we are creating. That this is a universe where this guy does speak fluently in English. So now how you get the nuances in that is up to you, but you can't like not speak in fluent English, or you can't speak in English that is not understandable because people in America would be watching it. And if you start regionalizing it too much, they'll be like, what is he even talking about? Like, they won't understand it. So there were a lot of these kind of struggles that happened, but then ultimately you do make peace with it and you move on.
So I think I've taken a lot of your time, and I look forward to seeing Balram in White Tiger.
Thank you so much, Vinod. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Okay. Take care, Adarsh.
Take care, Vinod. Lovely talking to you.
Same here.